Hello, Devy Dose faithful. You're probably a little surprised to see me and a certain EK missing, but I am the guest host tonight, Jacob. You can find me at Twitter at DevyJake, and I'm joined by college football force Ethan Sauers. At Ethan Sauers is where you can find him on at Twitter. Uh, Ethan's a contributor for campus2canton.com. Ethan, you got anything else you'd like to plug for us?
Yeah, man. With off season going around, Campus Canton's working on their guides right now, and we're working away on the CFF guide right now. The CFF guide should drop right around 4th of July weekend, but we're putting in the hours and getting things kicked off so that a little later on down the road, when everybody non-degenerates are looking to jump in some best balls and some CFF leagues, we can provide some help and some assistance there. So definitely looking forward for that to
Oh,
launch.
help and assistance is an understatement there. You guys have a dream team that you guys are even adding to as recently as today. But I've been a subscriber for years now, and I know that guide helped me last year in a number of leagues, and cannot wait to see what you, Jared, Nate, everyone over there are able to come up with
Yeah,
all exciting stuff.
for sure. It's an exciting time to be on the team. So we're loving all the content that is rushing out the door. So
Awesome. Well, speaking of content, we've got a nice show for you guys here today. I know we typically take more of a Devy lens here at the Devy Dose, but with EK away, the CFF Degens will play, and we're actually here to talk about some early wide receiver values for CFF best ball drafts, and these people are also going to be valuable in your campus of Canton leagues for your college side. These are the late producers that you're going to get that are going to help you secure that college side title. So with that being said, Ethan, would you like to kick us off with a wide receiver that you think is going under the radar and being underdrafted so far in the early draft season?
yeah, for sure. So just to give some context, I know that you had mentioned that we were looking, kind of after that 20th round in these CFF best balls that we were looking at. So just so everybody's on the same page there, that's kind of the criteria that I was taking and looking for. The first guy that really jumped in my mind was JoJo Earl, transfer to TCU, obviously former Alabama Crimson Tide receiver. Um, just the big things on him, he's got the pedigree, man. He is definitely one of the highest rated wide receivers to play at TCU. And he's coming home to Fort Worth. He's an Alito prospect. Alito is a Texas high school football powerhouse here in Texas. And really excited to see what he can do in that Sonny Dykes offense. Obviously, last year we saw, Darius Davis and Tay Barber were the guys that were the speedy options to complement Quentin Johnston. So I'm really excited to see what they're able to do with JoJo because honestly, man, like he's really of the same ilk as these guys. He's a speedy receiver. I think he's coming in at like 5'9", 170, something around there. And so he's going to be the kind of guy I wouldn't be surprised to see him, on special teams, getting some return action in. But he's the kind of guy who can really just fill the spot that Sonny Dykes likes to use with those speedy possession receivers that are able to, make plays and pick up some yak. So um, just for the audience here to understand the holes that's left behind from this offense. So this offense threw for nearly 4,000 yards last year, and they lose all three of their top receivers. So Johnston, Darius Davis, Tay Barber, all of them gone. They accounted for more than half, 56.3% of those nearly 4,000 passing yards. So I mean, Earl has a great opportunity to jump in and should be, I think, a target monster for Chandler Morris and this offense. But they've got some receivers and some mouths to feed on that roster. So I understand that, and I kind of see why some people might be scared off. I was looking at their roster earlier, and they have 23 receivers on their spring roster. uh, Jalen Robinson transferred in, former UCF guy. JP Richardson from Oklahoma State, Jack Beck from LSU, all transferring in.
Jalen
And
Robinson, he
you've
was
got
at Ole Miss last year, was it?
yeah. I know there was originally talk of him going to Oklahoma following Levy because he was familiar with Levy, but he did go to Ole Miss, and I mean it was quiet from him last year. I don't really remember hearing anything about him.
Yeah, I agree. He had, I think he was even hurt 2 years ago at UCF, but when before getting hurt, he was a monster, and I was excited, really excited about him
Yeah,
going to Ole Miss. And then he kind of did nothing last year. So yeah, I didn't realize he still had eligibility. That's awesome that he's somewhere with so much up for grabs as well. Uh,
yeah,
Love the
completely. I
JoJo
think
Earl shout out though. That's awesome. I think it's a talent from a
yeah,
talent perspective. I don't think there's anyone on that TCU in that TCU wide receiver room. Even 23 deep that can touch what JoJo Earl brings to the table from a talent perspective. There's questions of why he wasn't able to maybe separate himself in the pecking order at Alabama.
yeah,
And I don't know what the truth or the right answer is, but I'm excited for him to get a fresh start. And it's hard to deny that he's a super talented wide receiver, and I've still got a lot of I roster him in a lot of places.
oh yeah,
And it, never was able to part ways, and now I'm glad that a new opportunity has presented itself.
for sure. Yeah, and coming. I mean, anytime you see a receiver or a player come home, it's exciting. It's a good get right spot for him. Maybe they had a few he had a few years to enjoy that national spotlight at Bama, and I mean we say maybe it's not quite the same spotlight at TCU, but I mean they could challenge Sonny Dykes. He's turning them around, man.
Been to the playoffs more recently than Bama.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm excited about it. I mean, obviously you still got Jordan Hudson, Savion Williams, DJ Allen there. DJ Allen, another guy who's disappointed me last year. I was very high on him, but
Yeah,
um,
he
it'll
was a
be
blue chip,
interesting.
right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
the, and
But
they had I like their incoming freshman. I think he's already hurt, which is very disappointing. Cordell
Russell,
Russell, yeah, he's
yeah,
exciting, and I think he's definitely a name to keep tabs on in the
oh for
future as
sure.
well.
Yeah.
Uh,
So I think early we'll see Earl and Robinson kind of handle that Darius Davis, Tay Barber, more speedy guys, and hopefully Jordan Hudson gets that QJ treatment. So it's definitely something exciting to watch.
Yeah, and Hudson's I think basically going undrafted for the most part as well, and is definitely at least someone to keep tabs on going
Yeah,
forward when you're making your potential waiver wire lists for your C2C leagues. And I
hundred
think you bring up
percent.
a great point about the vacated production. I think in NFL when the argument doesn't hold water, like this wide receiver left, so now there's all this production up for grabs. It rarely works out like that, but in college, I think it's a different beast. These players are products of a system a
Yeah,
lot of times, and the system works, and
for
they
sure.
are going to have maybe they don't have the built-in ceiling as the person who they're filling in for, but that production is going to happen, and they're going to find someone to get the ball to. And I do agree that JoJo Earl's the most talented wide receiver there, and the most likely benefactor.
Yeah, I agree. That system fit, that scheme fit, and finding the right role is definitely huge in CFF. And I think I was able to pick him up in the 23rd round not too long ago, a few weeks ago. So I'm here
Sick.
for it, man.
No, that's awesome. And the TCU does lose its offensive coordinator, but this is like you've said, this is Sonny Dykes' team, Sonny Dykes' offense. This isn't a scenario where it's a brand new offensive coordinator coming in with a ton of unknowns on what it's going to look like. I think, fairly reliably can guess what this offense is going to look like this year.
Yeah, most definitely.
Um, Awesome. I'm gonna share my first guy here. It's someone I've been talking about on Twitter, so it should come as no surprise to anyone who does follow me. But Chimere DK, the wide receiver for Wisconsin, everyone's aware of their new offensive coordinator, Longo. He was the offensive coordinator at Ole Miss when they had AJ Brown, DK Metcalf. And then most recently, the offensive coordinator at UNC, where we've seen Daz Newsome, De'Ami Brown, Josh Downs, all put up absolutely absurdly productive seasons. So right away, we know that offense, someone is going to be having a great season. It's a question of who, and I think that DK is by far the most likely of the people who've been super productive for Longo. The vast majority of them have played in the slot. And this last season for Wisconsin, DK lined up in the slot about 80% of the time. Even though it's Wisconsin and they're hardly running three wide receiver sets as often as some teams, he was still lined up in the slot for 232 snaps. So a definite solid amount, and by far the most of the returning wide receivers on the team. He led the team in yards per route run and was sixth in the Big Ten. And he led the whole team in all your standard counting stats, targets, receptions, yards, touchdowns. He's had glowing reports so far this spring about his chemistry with Mordecai. He's making absurd catches. His main competition seems to really be CJ Williams, who's a highly rated recruit, but he was a year 1-0. He does seem to be impressing in camp, but I'm not overly concerned about Williams being the wide receiver one there. Skylar Bell is another one that people keep tabbing as someone who they think could ascend and take that Longo wide receiver one slot. But Bell was rated way worse than DK by PFF last year. I know that's not the be all end all, but I also don't think it's nothing. Also, Bell primarily lined up outside, way worse yards per route run. I think DK is a far better receiver than Skylar Bell. The main con I've been seeing so far, despite the rave reviews about DK from beat writers and the coaching staff alike, it does seem to be Will Pauling, of all people, seems to be getting the bulk of the first team work out of the slot. So if Pauling is who ends up the slot receiver there, he's definitely a name to know. I don't think that necessarily means DK is toast. De'Ami Brown didn't play in the slot, and he had two very productive seasons in this offense. But Chimere DK, write it down. He is he's got my stamp of approval. He's my boy this year.
Man, DK cost me some money playing daily fantasy last year. He had some blow up spots with probably about 3/4 of the way through the season after they got rid of lost the name, their last head coach. Once they fired him, seemed like Leonard definitely pedal to the metal and started throwing the ball around and getting a little high tech with that offense. But he definitely vultured a few Braylon Allen touchdowns for me, and I was not a fan. But I mean, DK, he came onto the scene last year and he showed up, and I think that's a really smart call. I don't know what to think of this offense. I just get smoke screens galore from beat writers and what they're going to do. The other day, I think I read that they were going to very heavily involve their tight ends this year in the passing game. And I mean, that's just what everybody would want to see at that point. I think, between the guys that are there, DK and Williams definitely have the highest ceiling. So when you're, 20 deep into your best balls here, those are the kind of guys you want to see. You want the guy with the potential, and Mordecai being there. I'm excited. I'm cautiously optimistic with him and him being in a new system, but it got to be exciting if you're a Badger fan.
Where do you think Mordecai fits in the Big Ten quarterback hierarchy? I mean, he comes in, I
Oof.
think, already a top three, maybe top four quarterback in the conference.
That's tough. I'm a little bit bearish on Mordecai this season, to be honest. I wonder how much was Mordecai and how much was that SMU system with Lashley and Dykes before that. I think he's definitely a step up from anything Wisconsin's had recently, which is the important part. I mean, Big Ten West, you just have to be competent to make your way through there, but. Um, I'd say he's a top five Big Ten quarterback. If you're doing it just from talent and not from fantasy, I mean, you gotta give two to Ohio State with Brown and McCord there.
Yeah,
But
we'll say starting quarterback, so they can only get one. But
yeah,
I would, yeah,
yeah,
I'd think McCord over or Brown over Mordecai is fair.
yeah,
I'd put your boy Alar
Aller,
up there
yeah,
as well. But after that, it's more questions than it is answers in the Big
for
Ten for
sure,
quarterback play. Uh,
for
and,
sure.
and and for offensive coordinators too. I mean, I know that we've seen
Yeah,
previously prolific offensive coordinators go to the Big Ten and not have that same success because it just seems to be a pound and grind and slugfest kind of league. But
yeah,
I don't know. I'm betting on it. Maybe that's why they're so cheap currently. But
yeah.
I think
You get these offensive gurus in there, and they struggle. And meanwhile, Brett Bielema is pounding the ball, 6 times a drive and just burying people. So whatever, man.
right. Right, I'm with you there. So you want to line us up with your second name here?
Yeah, absolutely. So next up, I went with Chase Roberts from BYU. He's a guy who's been getting some strong drum beats, steady drum beats in the spring reports. That he is the most impressive guy in camp right now. Last season, he had a very spotty performance. I think he was dealing with some injuries. Meanwhile, you had, Gunnar Romney and Puka Nasua also dealing with injuries. So it was a piecemeal offense last year from BYU, but he stepped up. I think he had 3 games where he was really featured, and in those games he went over 60 yards in each of them. Week 2 against Baylor, he had an 8 for 122 and 1 touchdown stat line, which uh, against a Baylor defense, I think that shows that he's got the ability to uh, do well in the Big 12 this year. So I'm really excited about him. The reason why he's going low is one, there's not a whole lot of um, security or a lot of confidence in picking any of those guys. You got Keanu Hill and Cody Epps both um, in the mix for that wide receiver one role. Keaton Slovis, need I say more? I mean, he likely won't be able to support multiple wide receivers, so that's going to be a liability moving forward. I know there's even some people that are already saying, Slovis may not have as firm of a grasp on that spot as some people think. So it'll be interesting watching him. He's got that small sample size so far, but the other idea is that maybe BYU goes more run heavy. They are coming off 3 or 4 seasons going from Zach Wilson to Jaron Hall and these guys who have a whole lot of experience. And say what you will about Zach Wilson's NFL career, he had a whole lot of talent in his time in Provo. So I could see with the drop off in quarterback that they decide that they want to, ground and pound with Aiden Robbins and some of the guys they had there. So.
I love Aiden Robbins. Big fan of his. Excited to see him actually succeed as a transfer. Unlike last year, who was it? Chris, the
Oh
Cal
yeah,
guy. I forgot
yeah,
his Chris Brooks. Unlike Chris
yeah, yeah,
Brooks.
yeah, yeah.
But love the Roberts hype. I think that you're right that there it does seem to be a consistent drumbeat coming out of camp, and I've seen a few people mention, as a general rule of thumb lately, and I forget who it was explicitly. So sorry for not giving you your props there, but one big spring report or camp report is largely ignorable or could be treated as a flash in the pan. But when you hear that consistent drum beat and it's coming every day, and it's a wide receiver room, like you said, it's already wide open. I think Cody Epps was kind of assumed to be the heir apparent to Puka Nacua, but it's still a wide open wide receiver room, and yeah, the noise is there, the smoke is there. When there's smoke, there's fire. I think Chase Roberts seems to be that guy, and we've definitely seen wide receivers thrive in that system in the past. I think
Yeah.
he's a great shout out.
Yeah, I mean he's got that explosiveness that you really look for. The gravy on top of BYU and their wide receiver one is they usually, if they've got the speedy guy, they like to get them the ball in the running game as well with reverses and some different double passes, things like that. So I'm really bullish on whichever wide receiver we get that emerges there. If I had to take a stab on it now, it'd be Roberts. So.
Great stuff. Yeah, I think I'm ready to dive into my second guy. He's
Go
a
for it.
name
I love this
who
one.
good. I hope so. He's near and dear to me. I've been tweeting about him for years, so hopefully this is finally the one. But Dante Wright, from originally from Colorado State, he just transferred into Temple. He had 800 yards as a true freshman in, frankly, a loaded Colorado State wide receiver room. They had, former five-star Nate Craig Myers and eventual NFL practice squatter Warren Jackson back in 2019. And, as a true freshman, still amassed over 800 yards. And, similar to how BYU uses wide receivers, they got him involved all over the field, had him in the kick return game. He was just someone they tried to scheme the ball, which was super encouraging for someone who was a freshman. Next year is the COVID year. They only play 3 games. He averages over 100 yards a game each one, but you look back at his stats and it says he only had 300 yards that year, so you think maybe he started sucking. But he actually was really good.
And that's under
20
Adazio, wasn't it?
and that is under Adazio. 2021
You can thrive
is
under him, man. Whew.
exactly. I still want so then 2021 he was hurt, and Adazio, also only threw the ball to Trey McBride and nobody else, no matter what. And that wasn't great for him. I thought Jay Norvell coming was going to be a godsend, but for whatever reason they did not mesh, and he never saw the field. I think he wanted to preserve his final year of eligibility, so he didn't suit up, and had just planned on transferring. So he lands it at Temple. Jose Barbin is gone. He had over 900 yards and 70 catches last year. EJ Warner, the quarterback, son of Kurt Warner, was a true freshman last year. His last 7 games were all over 35 passes. 2 of them were 60 or more. They like to sling the rock with him. The wide receiver room's open. Dante Wright is by far the most talented wide receiver that Temple has had in the last 3 or 4 years. I think wheels up for Dante Wright. I think he's for whatever reason an afterthought in CFF drafts. I don't know if everyone just has Dante Wright fatigue or thought that maybe there's something to him not catching on with Jay Norvell last year, but the proof's in the pudding. He's done it before. He's going somewhere where they like to throw it. I'm excited.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it makes sense last year too. I mean, I was firmly on that Clay Millen, Dante Wright, Torrey Horton connection, thinking, man, they're gonna throw the ball all over the yard. I was disappointed. I was overexposed to Dante Wright last year, so I understand the hesitation for sure.
The
But
overcorrect
man,
correction.
oh yeah, it's definitely an overcorrection. By the way, I am back fully endorsing them again this year. By the way, I think that Norvell system going from Adazio to the air raid. I mean, the offensive line was just atrocious last year. Millen was fighting for
Uh,
his life every snap.
yeah, he was on his
So I
back 90% of the games.
Yeah, yeah. So I get it, and I'm excited to see what they do. But Dante Wright going to Temple, it just seems like a an under the radar move. I don't know if people are kind of scared off by the fact that Temple has been so bad for a few years now. Since basically since oh gosh, names are just flying out of my mind today. Nebraska's new head coach that was at Baylor for a
Rule.
while. Rule. Yeah. Ever since Rule left, it seems like Temple just hadn't been able to get it together. But with EJ Warner last year, really coming on about a quarter, halfway through the year, I mean they put it together and they started to show some real flashes. And I can't get enough of Dante Wright this year. I think he is great. I think he's a kind of guy that, much like one of the guys here that I've got left to talk about, I think um, from not being a household name last year, I think they're just going under the radar, and I think that ADP is going to really start to rise in the next few months.
And one, maybe it's a bad thing that he didn't play at all last year and wasn't hurt, but at the same time, it's not like you
Yeah,
have the X factor of how is he healed and how's he recovering, from an
exactly.
injury. So hopefully he's well rested and can come in and do some work. I have been looking out and have not seen any camp hype. About him, but haven't seen any for any Temple practices or
Yeah,
wide receivers so far yet. It does seem like he's made it on campus, so that's a positive sign. And it's definitely a situation I'll monitor going forward. I think we, are probably
yeah,
past the looking at things on paper and more in the okay, they should be on campus and we should be hearing that they're gelling and
yeah.
doing well and on the same page as the quarterback and all that. So if that doesn't come soon, then I'll maybe get my hackles up. But in the meantime, I'm wallowing in it. I'm basking.
Yeah.
Bathing
He
in Dante Wright.
he avoided the Taj Harris situation. He actually got on campus and
Right.
enrolled, so we're good. That's more than can be said. I spent about 20 minutes this morning going over some Corey Gamage stats and trying to pull some stuff because I was so excited going to Memphis, only to go back and find a tweet from like 2 months ago saying, "Oh, he never actually got on campus." I was like, "Damn it, that Taj
No.
Harris situation, man." But we'll see how that plays out for Dante Wright, but definitely wheels up, man.
Awesome. Well, bring us home with your third guy here, my man.
For sure. So, Trayvon Rudolph of Northern Illinois. It's a name that should be familiar if you were paying attention to 2 years ago. He was an early camp casualty last year, going down with a knee injury before the season started. Honestly, pretty early in the summer, I feel like he went down, and it's I assume it's an ACL or something there, but they just going with a non-contact knee injury. I'm not entirely sure what the extent of the injury was, but in 2021, he put up 51 catches for 892 yards and 7 touchdowns through the air, while also getting 113 rushing yards on 8 carries and scoring a touchdown on the ground. Not sure if that was a screen or a backwards pass or anything like that, or how creative they're getting for Northern Illinois. But he played with Rocky Lombardi that season. Lombardi's still there, same head coach, same offensive coordinator. They didn't bring anybody in. No new transfers really. No emergence of anybody last year in that Northern Illinois offense. So I'm very much interested in Trayvon Rudolph. He essentially free a few weeks ago. As of probably 2 weeks ago, I was seeing him go in the second to last round in some 30-round best balls. So very legitimate opportunity for him to go, 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns this year. The biggest hesitation, apart from the injury concern and getting that confidence back on the field, is just the fact that he's playing in Northern Illinois, and Maction in October and November, those games get cold. Coaches love to run the ball when it's cold weather games, it seems. So we'll see how that plays out, but he's the kind of guy that I have zero hesitation pulling the trigger on somebody like him after round 20, because he's a game changer. He's electric from what we saw 2 years ago.
Absolutely. I love Trayvon Rudolph. One of my favorites. Unfortunately, he did not. He went down fairly early in the summer, but not before I had drafted him in just about every best ball league I was in up until that point.
Yeah.
So that was less than fun. I think if I recall correctly, he had a 300-yard game as a freshman. I think that that was the same year that Xavier Worthy went nuts. And outside of Xavier Worthy, I think he was, far and away the most productive freshman receiver that year in the entire country. Love Trayvon Rudolph. He, like you said, he's just an electric player. And I think sky's the limit. And I think, he's maybe skating by under the radar just because, people forget about him after he sat out more than the entire year last year. So I think as soon as, camp buzz starts really picking up and we get closer and closer to the season, I think we're looking at Rudolph being a mid-round draft pick at worst. I think, right. He's in my opinion, the quintessential early value. I think he's gonna
sure.
continue to rise as news comes out, and get him now while you can.
For sure. He is the kind of guy who you want to join best balls early because you want to make sure that you get some exposure to him. Before I saw probably about a week ago, Chris Moxley had tweeted about him, and I was like, damn it. Gotta stop reminding these people of all these great values out there. But Trayvon Rudolph definitely fits the bill.
All it takes is one tweet from you campus2canton.comers sometimes, and the cat's out of the bag.
Man, the funniest thing is when you're in this. I'm doing a few startups for C2Cs right now, and it's always so funny because I'll throw a podcast on, and I'll be listening through it, and then I go to my draft board to see where this guy is, and he was taking one pick ahead of me because somebody else listened to it a few minutes before me. Man, really driving the ADP on some guys there. But
right, absolutely. No, that is awesome. I'll bring us home here and wrap us up with my third guy. And he's someone I'm very excited about. Jalen Knoll, wide receiver for Iowa State Cyclones. The past, I think Matt Campbell's been there since I think 2016. The worst wide receiver one season that offense has produced was 76 catches for 900 yards. So that's a fantastic wide receiver one floor. There already is a ton of camp hype and beat reporters glowing about Knoll's work ethic, his expanded role with the team, him stepping into a leadership role with Xavier Hutchinson gone. Last year he had 85 targets, 60 catches, almost 600 yards. So he's already been productive in the Big 12. He did primarily play in the slot, and the Matt Campbell offense does tend to favor the outside receivers. But we saw Hakeem Butler in 2017 played primarily in the slot for this offense, and then the next year when he was it was his turn as the wide receiver one. He played outside almost exclusively, and had an incredible season. I think that Jalen Noel is absolutely capable of playing both places. They already do try and get him involved all over the field and in motion, and in different packages. I think that he's the piece to own in this offense. I think with Dante Wright, I think that EJ Warner is going to take a leap this year from his freshman year, which is to his benefit. I don't think Deckers has the same leap in him per se, but I do like him to take a step and become a little bit more efficient going forward. That offense has had a floor of over 3,000 yards every year for the last six years, and including last year with Decker when he finished QB 60, I believe. So right middle of the road for fantasy purposes for Decker, but I like him to improve on that a little bit, not a ton. But I think that Decker finishing QB 60 and still being able to support the season that we saw from Xavier Hutchinson should be very encouraging for Jalen Noel, and I think that the ceiling is there. It may be about 90% or maybe 85% of what Hutchinson was able to achieve, but I think that that he's probably the fourth best wide receiver one they've had in that system the last few years, and I think he'll produce accordingly.
Man, I love this. Not Jalen Noel, but I love the fact that you like him because we're in so many leagues together. He's the one guy on your list that I still need to be sold more on him.
No.
I don't think that he's going to have quite the same impact. I liken it to the Parker Washington situation last year at Penn State. I'm a Penn State guy, so that's the frame of reference that I have. I think he's a guy who is solid in the slot. I think he's really a good, perimeter or not perimeter guy, but a good secondary guy in an offense. Not necessarily being the wide receiver one. The argument that you make though is a good one with the floor of that wide receiver one, whoever it is in that offense. That has me kind of on the fence a little bit, but the difference that I see between guys like Hakeem Butler and Xavier Hutchinson is just size. I think in that offense, especially if Decker doesn't improve in his game, I think that you need a bigger body contested catch guy to be that alpha in the room for Iowa State. And I don't think Noel is that guy. If I was looking it up while you were talking, I'm pretty sure it said he was 5'11", about 175. That was what he came into Iowa State as when he got to AIM. So he may have put on a little bit more weight there, but I'm hesitant to pull the trigger. He's not expensive at this point, so that's a plus. And this is the kind of guy who you want to look for. We talk about scheme and we talk about vacated production. So I have those points there, and I like that, but I'm not confident enough, and I'm more confident in some other guys around that value than going on Noel.
I appreciate the honesty. You had me there in the first half with the "I love this," and then you bought me crashing down. That was messed up, man. But
yeah.
So I mean, the person who did get the floor, I'm trying to bring up his size. I guess he's oh, never mind. That's Jarrell Brock. I misclicked. But the person who had the worst wide receiver one season under Matt Campbell. Why is my computer freezing now? But it was like Deshaunte Jones, who
Okay.
basically a nobody.
Yeah.
And I gotta think that if he's able to still have the success that he was able to find, that Noel should as well. But I can appreciate the other opinion, even if it's wrong.
Man, that's totally fair, and that's why I love Campus to Canton, and why it's tough being in leagues with sharp guys like yourself because you don't have that differing of opinion very often on some guys like that. And honestly, I think he's probably uh, going to outproduce the draft capital that he's at right now, that his ADP. He'll likely outproduce that just with what you're talking about with the floor. But um, as we know, as more buzz starts to come out about these guys, seems like all of these guys start to rise because we get the guys who are clearly struggling in camp. And I don't know what my limit is per se, but I'm struggling to get any higher with his ADP.
I can vibe with that. I can vibe with that. Very well said. I think we have a little bit of bonus content for you guys as well.
Yeah, we do.
Maybe wanted to touch on a few situations that we're currently not seeing any wide receivers getting drafted. Well, at least with the two I have, but uh, looking at situations to monitor going forward, where a potential name could pop up that we want to be on quickly as opposed to reacting slowly, because there I think will be a value from all of these groups that we're about to talk about, but it's not entirely clear who it will be, and being quick to pounce when it does become available will be key to your success. But I'm gonna lead off and just mention that the Auburn wide receiver room is one that I'm actively keeping tabs on. I don't think that anyone is draftable right now. I think it's Phil Montgomery is the offensive coordinator. He's the head coach of Tulsa the last few years. They're wide receiver one for the last 5 or 6 years has been over 1,000 yards and over 8 touchdowns every year. I think just about many of those were Keelan Stokes, but a good chunk of them weren't as well, and were other players too. I think that everyone's sleeping on the Auburn wide receiver room, and I think that whoever does emerge from that cluster will have a chance to provide a significant return in value. What is there anyone that you're aware of in that room that you like? I think I like, if I had to gun to my head right now, I'd probably pick Coy Moore. I think he's the ex LSU Tiger. I think I liked him coming out of high school. He seemed talented, but largely I don't have a specific guy that I am hoping gets it or think will be the number one. But I do want whoever it ends up being. Do you have any input or insight on the Auburn wide receiver room?
Man, I usually I avoid those murky, SEC rooms that don't have a clear standout, just because everybody on the roster's got some talent. Corey Moore is a guy who I did like when he was at LSU. Um, my hang up isn't with the talent in that room, to be honest. My hang up is the talent of the quarterback at this point. But we're all watching that quarterback spot for some sort of spring transfer, perhaps, to come in. So you could see a huge just rocket ship in their value if we do get some noticeable difference maker who transfers in.
Yeah, I'll honestly be surprised if we don't see an improvement. I think it should be Ashford if they don't bring anyone in, right? I think he's not an amazing passer by any stretch, but I think he could support a wide receiver three, a top 36 wide receiver in college fantasy, quite possibly, just given the way that Phil Montgomery tends to pepper his wide receiver one. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It is a murky situation. We don't know exactly what the offense is going to look like for sure. Will it be all Montgomery, or will Freeze have his input? almost certainly, but we'll see how that shakes out and what that looks like.
Yeah.
But as far as murky SEC wide receiver rooms go, I think that's the creme de la creme, and would be, the one that I want a piece of. It,
Yeah.
not more than like Kentucky. They're murky in a different respect,
Yeah.
but I, compared to say, drawing a blank on another good example, but even Florida, Andy Jean seems to be showing out, but other than him, I don't know who I'd want at Florida, and I don't necessarily trust their system to produce any great wide receiver play either.
Exactly.
I think as far as murky receiver rooms go in the conference, it's a good one.
Yeah, for sure.
What about you? Give us a situation that you're monitoring.
Yeah, this is one of those murky for a different situation or a different reason options here. But SMU's wide receiver room, I know, Matt Bruning has been doing a great job with the spring reporting and his YouTube videos and podcasts over on Campus Canton. Um, Early on, I think one of the first names that he had mentioned a few weeks ago was Jackson Lavender, freshman who is really showing out at SMU, getting some huge praise from the coaching staff. Um, I know Curley also over there is somebody who Jordan Curley has been getting some strong praise through the spring as well as a veteran presence that is connecting. But Preston Stone, another guy who's just wheels up for that whole offense. I think he is more than competent, and I think he's going to really enhance the way that this offense is able to move the ball. The main thing that makes this situation so murky is that Dylan Goffney and Jake Bailey are out for the spring. So we're hearing these names and we're saying, okay, these guys are some names to watch. But I honestly think Dylan Goffney is going to be the wide receiver one from that room. The only thing is, I have nothing to back that up other than I felt like he was the guy who kind of had strong rapport with Preston Stone last year, and is a developing talent that could step into the Rashee Rice role. I think Curley is a great peripheral option and a great piece on that offense. And late in the year, I feel like Mordecai, when Rice was dealing with injury, Mordecai did lean on Curley quite a bit. But Dylan Goffney, I'm really excited to see what he's able to do with another year in that system and developing some rapport with Preston Stone.
That's awesome. Yeah, Curly's been going quite high, I think, in the first 10 rounds in best ball drafts. So, there's definitely some risk there, but, the upside's huge. And, if you have a Rashee Rice like season or, who was it before him, Reggie Roberson or,
Yep.
Who I think Lashley was the OC back when Roberson
Cortland
was
Sutton
there. Yeah, and
before
Sutton
him.
before him. Yeah, and I think Lashley was there for him too. And yeah, I think it is wide open. I would rather take shots on Goffney than pay up for Curley. I'm going to throw another name at you. How do you feel about RJ Maryland and how he fits into the situation?
Oh man. Fun fact about the freshman supplemental guide that Campus Canton just launched. I got the privilege of writing up RJ Maryland for our supplemental piece, and he's one of those guys who I am viscerally upset when I don't get in my drafts. I
Same, and
think
he's
he is.
climbing.
Oh, he is. He is going to be, you know, I think he's going to be a top 10 tight end easy in this offense. Um, he just has the ability near the red zone. Like he gives me these Kyle Pitts vibes in the red zone. Like he just has the ability to be an athletic difference maker who's a big body who can come down with it. I love him. I love RJ Maryland. So I'll gush about him all day long.
Awesome. I'm there with you. Kid is supremely talented. He absolutely flashed last year on numerous occasions, and yeah, I think he's a A star in the making, absolutely. I'm gonna wrap up my last situation that I'm currently monitoring, and that's the Fresno State wide receiver room. We talk about vacated production, and you lose a Jalen, is it Moreno Cropper Moreno? I forgot which way he changed it,
Yeah.
but I think it's Moreno Cropper.
Yeah.
Nick Remigio's gone. They had a third wide receiver whose name eludes me now, but he's also
I'll
gone.
mention him in a second. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So that wide receiver room is wide open. They bring in mostly freshmen. There's someone that Jake Hayner who started to hype up during his draft process interviews. Josiah Freeman. He was a
Heck
JUCO
yeah.
transfer last year coming in. He seems to be the most obvious choice of heir apparent. But they have another JUCO wide receiver coming in this year who I really like, and I think has every chance of running away with the number one spot there, and that's Tim Greer. He's a really talented guy, and I think it's a wide open wide receiver room, and it's just going to be interesting to see who's able to emerge and if they're able to even come close to replicating what Cropper was able to do the last couple of years.
Yeah, I was a little late to the party in doing my research on Fresno and came across that Freeman nugget and have been running with it as best I can. So I'm excited to see what they do there. That offense just seems like they're consistently able to produce and bring in new guys and just keep it going. Very excited as well for Mikey Keene, the quarterback there,
Me
transferring from
too.
UCF. So
He's not I don't think he's ever going to be a top 20 CFF kind of guy, but he Ryan O'Keefe succeeded with him under center. I I think that he's more than adept and more than capable of at least helping produce a useful wide receiver season, even if
yeah.
he has no business in starting lineups.
Yeah, I mean, Mikey Keene, he's the kind of guy who you can draft late in drafts, and you can get, he's a great bye week fill in. He'll be in the quarterback three conversation likely with the production. I'm a little worried about him getting a new system under his belt and learning that, but he was a square peg in a round hole with Malzahn. So I'm excited to
Right.
see him get a chance to learn a system and make it his own.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. No, that is awesome. What have you got? One final situation that you're monitoring?
One
Bring us
last.
home.
One last. So you were talking about Fresno State wide receivers, and we got one who transferred in here to Washington State. So
Ah,
Washington State brings in Kyle Williams from UNLV, Isaiah Hamilton from San Jose State, then Josh Kelly is that Fresno
Kelly,
State receiver. Man,
Kelly.
Kelly, he was my boy 2 years ago. He really put up some great numbers. His production dipped last year after bringing in Remigio. He just wasn't a factor in that offense in the same way. So I feel like maybe he's on the odds with the staffing there, or bringing in Tedford again. Maybe he didn't jive with him the same way that he did with the previous staff. But all of the buzz right now in camp has really been. I think Washington State just had their spring game, and DT Sheffield is the new receiver there that is getting all of the hype. Head coach Jake Dicker gave him a comparison to Renard Bell, who's been the explosive do-it-all wide receiver that they lost last year. But him and Lincoln Victor are the two that really shined in that spring game. So that's interesting. Again, though, then the reason why I'm hesitant and why it's murky is that Washington State, all of those transfers that I mentioned, none of them are able to get going in the spring here. So all of them are dealing with some either injuries or maybe some academic reasons that have kept them from getting involved in spring ball. Not 100% sure on the whys for all of those. But they're quality G5 receivers who are transferring in. Obviously, with Ben Arbuckle there now, that is uh, a, a room that we want access to. We want somebody in that room. And right now, I mean, Sheffield, like I said, Sheffield and Victor seem like the two that are really getting the hype right now. But I will be very closely monitoring those transfers this fall to see if one of them can emerge as a competent wide receiver one, wide receiver two.
Yeah, I think it's a great shout, a great room worth keeping tabs on. And yeah, it should be wide open. Stribling's gone. Bell's graduated, I think, finally, as you said.
Yeah.
So I think it's wide open. I think that the system is there that works. You know, we saw the numbers that they've been able to put up at Incarnate Word rather, and yeah, I'm excited to see what happens there. You know, there's maybe a little bit more of a learning curve or uh, a buffer zone or a adaption period or whatever you want to call it, where the
Yeah.
offense maybe didn't take off the same way that I was hoping they would right out of the gates. But I, I'm back at the well. I'm here to drink again and drink the Kool-Aid and get hype. I think that it's a room worth monitoring and worth knowing for sure.
Yeah, man, it'll be interesting, and I mean, they do have a little bit of a change because that Incarnate Ward coach is now at North Texas, I believe, and so uh, they still got
Kinney, right?
Sam
Oh
Ward.
yeah, Kinney is
Yeah,
gone. You're right. Okay, so wait, no,
uh,
I thought that it was the other Incarnate Word coach that was after the Washington State guy. No,
uh, Arbuckle is the
the offensive
replacement
coordinator.
for I can't. Coach names are just missing me today. But from Western Kentucky, he was the guy who replaced Texas Tech's offensive coordinator now.
Yeah, Kitley or whatever
Kitley, there we
replaced
go.
Kitley.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. So we'll see how it all plays out. I mean, so many of these guys. The fact that we're struggling to keep our name sorted on these high flying offense is a great thing because it means there's plenty of them coming in and taking off. So it'll be exciting to see how all of them play out this spring and this fall.
you're too kind, saving me the embarrassment there. But yeah,
Nah, man.
well, we I appreciate you coming on so much, Ethan. Is there, obviously we got the CFF guide coming out. We'd love to have you back if you want to. We're going to do
Yeah,
other
man.
other position groups going forward, and you're welcome to come aboard for that. We'd love to have you. For everyone listening, he's at Ethan Sauers on Twitter. I'm at Devy Jake. Please subscribe, follow, like, all of the above. We're going to be having some Devy Dose CFF best ball leagues that we're hosting ourselves. So feel free to reach out to EK, comment on this tweet or this video, reach out to me. We'd love to have you to get down on it and take advantage of some of these sleepers that we just told you about. Ethan, you
Yeah,
got
man.
anything else for us before we sign off?
I'm excited to jump in a few of those with you guys. And I do want to just say that you and EK are two of the first guys that I really got to know in the C2C space. I'm still pretty new with the whole CFF and C2C game. 2 years ago was the first league that I jumped into, and that was one that I think EK was running, and I know you're in. So
Yeah, you
um,
beat me
I,
in the championship, and if I'd started Sky Moore, I would have won. But I benched him for frickin' Will Shipley, who still had 25 points, but Sky Moore had 40 something. I
man,
hate that.
it's been the gateway for me though. I think I was in three leagues that year, and I won two on the college side, and said, "Man, I got to get more of this." I'm in, gosh, I think 30 now, so we're feeding the addiction there. But just real happy to be on here, and sorry I missed out on EK, but you guys are doing great stuff, and I appreciate you guys, and you're a pleasure to join and compete against each year. So I appreciate you guys.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks, Ethan. I hope you have a wonderful night. Everyone listening, I hope the same. Yeah, have a good one.